Hey, true crime fans! Tired of ads interrupting your gripping investigations? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. After all, ads shouldn't be the scariest thing about true crime. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free true crime. That's amazon.com/ad-free true crime to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.
Welcome to 31 Days of Terror, day number 15. And we're taking a break from all the seriousness for a moment because we are doing a little bit of an anonymous Q&A. We're bringing back the quarantine question time vibes. I do kind of Q&As and catch-ups and whatever pretty regularly on Patreon, like every couple of months or so. But I haven't done one on the main feed in a really long time. So I am going to dive into some of your questions and I'm excited to answer them. So let's just get started. First question is very general and I'm here for it. It's, how are you? How's life? What are you up to these days outside of the podcast? So life is good. Life is okay. Life is steady. As you guys can imagine, the last 3.5 years of my life have been incredibly difficult. I never expected to be living this life, but here we are, and it's been incredibly difficult. But I do feel like I have a bit of stability, of ease in my life. Finally, I'm not, every day is not a battle anymore, which probably sounds like I'm being really dramatic, but there was a long period of time where genuinely every day was a battle. And I'm often quite good at turning it on for the podcast, where I'm like, this is my podcast persona. So I guess you often wouldn't know that I might be struggling in various ways. But yeah, things are good. Currently, I am running a lot. At the time of recording this, I'm about to run my second half marathon. And look, to be clear, right, people who are rolling their eyes at this being like, oh, go on, bragging about running. Like, I literally hated the first half marathon. I was probably in the last 50 people to finish. I hate it so much. I find running so hard. I'm so slow. It's really difficult. Okay, I don't enjoy it, so I'm not having a good time. So if you think that I'm out there running and feeling like I'm better than everybody else and having a good time, you're wrong, because I'm just sweating and angry, basically. So I run a lot. I also am still doing lots of acting. I've just started acting classes, which I'm really enjoying. And that's about it, really. Life is pretty quiet and pretty stable. And I don't know if you can ask for anything more than that, to be honest. So the next question is one that I get all the time, right? I get this question all the time. Every time I put up an anonymous box, I get this question kind of multiple times. And I think I've answered it before, maybe on Patreon and maybe on Instagram. I'm not sure. But somebody wanted to know, do you get any signs or visits that you think might be from Dan? I.e., he used to talk about lights flickering as he walked under them. Have you experienced it? No. That is the short answer, is no. I don't feel like I've gotten any signs from him or visitations or anything like that. I did have 2 dreams about him that felt, I guess, you know, in that way that people write into the podcast all the time, you know, dreams that just felt different than normal dreams. But that's been it, really. I don't feel like I've had signs or anything like that. And I'm not sure if I did, whether I would talk about it on the podcast. And that's not because of any of the listeners. I just don't know if I would talk about it, or maybe I would share it. I'm not entirely sure. To be really honest, I sometimes wonder if wherever he is, he's thinking, she is still far too angry for me to come back and give her a sign. I carry a lot of anger for him up and leaving me all of a sudden, you know? So maybe he's just waiting until there's less of a chance that I'll give him the bollocking of a lifetime if he shows up in the form of a flickering light or a feather or whatever else. Do you have a top 10 or whatever number or bucket list of paranormal / haunted places that you want to visit? What locations top that list? So at the moment, I'm very much wanting to visit York, which is, you know, said to be the most haunted place in the UK. And that's actually quite an accessible one, right? So I can get on a train and go to York. So York is on my list. The second place that I want to go is back to Edinburgh. So when I went to Edinburgh in the summer, I went for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and I saw lots of amazing shows and spooky shows and horror shows and all sorts of stuff, but I didn't get to do any of the like haunted touristy stuff in Edinburgh. So my plan is to go back and actually do some of the haunted touristy stuff like Greyfriars, Bobby, like Edinburgh Castle, like Arthur's Seat. Like there's lots of things that I want to do in Edinburgh. I also want to go to some of the islands of the UK, so the Isle of Man and the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Man specifically because I want to do a Jeff the Mongoose pilgrimage, obviously. And the Isle of Wight has lots of great spooky folklore too. So I think at the moment, I'm feeling very UK based with my paranormal hotspots that I want to travel to. Because I often think, you know, I'd love to go to Waverly Hills, which I still would love to go to because I you know, the amount of experiences people have had there, the videos and the story behind Waverly Hills really fascinates me, so I would love to go and see it. But at the moment, UK based, and I got this really cool map called, it's like the map of folklore and superstition of the UK, and that's got a top 50 haunted locations in the UK on it. And there's a girl on TikTok, I think she's called the Morbid Tourist on TikTok, who is doing, you know, going to all those 50 locations. And I'm a little bit jealous that she got there before me. It's such a good idea. So I might just copy her idea and kind of try and do a pilgrimage around the UK of weird, spooky, haunted places, and probably drag Sinead from the Poisoner's Cabinet along with me. Just make her come whether she likes it or not. So the next question is also a question I get all the time, and it's, have you ever had a personal paranormal experience? And if so, can you share it? So yes, I have. And I have shared it in great detail in the very, very, very first episode of the podcast. So it is, if you go all the way back to the beginning, the episode is called Paranormal Pilot. And it is a retelling of my own paranormal experience. And I also have told that story. I mean, I've told it on TikTok. I think I told it twice on TikTok, to be fair. And I pretty much tell it on every podcast that I guest on. I'm sure people are like, will she ever stop telling that fucking story? But yeah, so there is a full version of the story if you go back to the very beginning of the podcast. After years of running the podcast, can you say that you are a 100% believer in ghosts, aliens, cryptids, black-eyed kids, etc.? Perhaps you believe in one of those things more than in the others. Oh, how I would love for cryptids to be real, just all of them, because I love cryptid stories. I know they're not everybody's cup of tea. That's why I try and space them out and not do them as often. But when I do them, I absolutely adore them. Do I think that those cryptids are real? Probably not, to be honest. My belief in ghosts changes all of the time. And just to be really clear, I'm not saying that I don't think people have paranormal experiences, because I think that people experience things they truly cannot explain. That I think is a fact. Whether or not it's ghosts, whether or not that's the explanation, that's another story, right? But there is something about the veracity of the stories and the similar patterns that appear in the stories that we hear all the time. So, you know, stories about people who their kids know information they shouldn't know, or stories that are validated years later by somebody else in the family, you know, where they say, I used to see this woman on the stairs or whatever, and then years later they find out a woman died after falling down the stairs, and, you know, lots of other people had seen her too. There's a real kind of weight to those stories, I think. Stories like Black Eyed Kids, I'm not so sure about, because I do think that is an urban legend that sort of caught hold. I mean, maybe the original stories are true. I think most of the retellings of Black Eyed Kids stories are pretty made up. Are they still scary? Yeah, they're still bloody scary. And aliens, let's not talk about. Okay, thank you. What is your favourite type of paranormal story? Ghosts, glitches in the Matrix, urban legends, etc. I love a time slip or glitch in the Matrix story. I really find them so fascinating. Like, I read them and I go, oh my God, we are living in so many different universes. There are millions of different parallel timelines, and we're just happen to be in this one. And the beauty about, I think, glitch in the Matrix stories and like time slip stories is that, you know, you can get some samey ones, but there's so many ones that are completely different and sometimes completely ridiculous. I have talked about this story before, but I covered a story on Patreon, I think, and I just loved it so much. It was so silly. This guy wrote into the 14 Times, and he went to bed and he was eating like some crackers, some kind of individual wrapped crackers, and they were in his hand, and there was this like cracking sound and a flash of light, and then the crackers disappeared. They were gone out of his hand. And I just thought, it's so silly and inconsequential, but also so compelling. Like, what does that mean? Where did they go? I just think stories like that are fascinating. Have you visited any haunted places? Why, yes, I have. And on the YouTube channel, I think the YouTube is just called Real Life Ghost Stories. There are videos on there of me visiting various haunted places, and I think they're categorized into playlists. So if you want to look at the playlists, I think there's like haunted places playlist. I don't know what it's actually called, but it's something along those lines. I have visited haunted places. I've gone to the haunted hotel in Chester, Ye Old King's Head, with Kev from We Need to Talk About Ghosts. I have also visited the Ancient Ram Inn and left because I wasn't feeling too good, and I wasn't feeling too good about the story behind the Ancient Ram Inn either. I just was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable sharing this as a haunted location. And where else have I been that's haunted? I've been to the Banshee Labyrinth in Edinburgh, which is very famously haunted. Admittedly, didn't spend enough time there, but I will go back there and spend more time for sure. And I also visited loads of haunted places in America last year. I travelled all down the West Coast and visited loads of haunted places, and it was very fun and very cool. I particularly liked Alcatraz. I think that was one of my favourite haunted places that I have visited. Are there any particular listener stories that have stuck with you over the years? Oh my God, yeah, loads. Loads of listener stories. There was one that I read recently that was recently on the podcast, where the guy and his girlfriend, I think it was like Thanksgiving, and they went for a walk on the beach, and then they heard the sound of wailing, the sound of crying, like a baby crying, and there was this person sort of huddled on a bench rocking back and forth with their hood up, and they realised the sound of the baby crying was coming from this person. And then when the hood, or when the head sort of rose or looked up, it was like this mass of iridescent colour underneath the hood. That, I don't know what it is about that story, but it has wormed its way into my brain, and I just think about it every so often, and I'm like, what the heck happened there? 9 times out of 10, stories don't keep me up at night. Same with horror films. I used to watch horror films back in the day, and I'd be awake half the night freaking out, but I don't really have that anymore with horror films or stories or things that I'm researching. I think it's just because I have read so many at this stage that my brain is like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Would you do a ghost investigation? Yes, I would. Did one in Chester, in Ye Old King's Head, like I said, with Kev from We Need to Talk About Ghosts. And that is on the My Haunted Hotel YouTube channel. You can see a lot of me just not reacting to things. I don't know what it is. I just don't really have a jump scare reflex. You know, when scary things happen, I like, there is a moment where in that video where, and it was at the time, it was genuinely really scary. We were doing like a spirit box session, and this hideously demonic, horrible voice sort of came from the spirit box. I've never heard anything like it. And I don't think the video on YouTube does it justice. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say it was terrifying. And everybody else around the table like jumped and turned to look, and I just sat there. And then sort of slowly turned around. And it made me look way cooler than I actually am. I seemed like really unbothered by the whole thing. I mean, I was bothered, but my body and my face just doesn't really show it. I know you started the podcast because Will and Dan had one and you were jealous and just had to have one too. What made you decide to have a podcast about real life ghost stories? Well, it was something that Dan and I would talk about. Like, we would sit and watch Ghost Adventures and, you know, either roar laughing at it or scare the shit out of ourselves and like watch scary videos on YouTube and watch horror films and talk about ghost stories and stuff. And I also knew that other people were interested in it. Like, I knew that there were people that, like us, that liked watching things like Ghost Adventures and liked spooky stories. And I thought, there's kind of never ending content. Like, there are so many scary stories out there, like interesting, weird, spooky stories. Why not? I also knew, and I mean this with no sense of romanticized hindsight, I knew that people would love Dan. I knew that he was just so sweet and lovely and funny and engaging to listen to that people would love listening to him. And I knew that I was a decent enough storyteller to be able to tell spooky stories, right? So I was like, this is fine. We can do this. Honestly, I didn't think that I would still be here all these years later, like 5-6 years later, still telling ghost stories. I thought it would be something that we would do as a little hobby for a while, and then either get bored of it or get to a point where we'd be like, okay, we've got 2 listeners and we love those 2 listeners, but it's not sustainable. But it just kept growing and growing. And I think a part of the reason why it kept growing and growing was because both of us were genuinely interested in ghost stories, even silly ones, like in our real life outside of the podcast. Do you have any myths that you believe to be absolutely true? Any cryptids you fully believe in? Yeah, I really do. I think that alien big cats, when people see big cats in random places, I think there's a strong possibility. Yeah, there's some of them that are going to be, you know, people misidentifying just a big cat. But I do also think there are alien big cats knocking around. I think people have big cats when they shouldn't, and then they release them into the wild or they escape, and I think they end up knocking around. I also want to believe that the Loch Ness Monster is real. I don't necessarily believe that she's a big dinosaur, but I would not remotely be surprised if there was something enormous in Loch Ness that was discovered, like a really big species of fish, and people went, oh my God, this is what the Loch Ness Monster has been all these years. This is what the sightings were. I would love it if that happened. And I also always think about the story of, I think it's the Dragon of Brood, which is in the east of England. There was this legend that a dragon appeared from the river and people were fighting this dragon in all these different villages, and you know, people were like, it was this big scaly thing, and it was really well documented at the time, and it kind of became this legend of the area. And then historians were like, you know, at the time in the Tower of London there were crocodiles or alligators, I can't remember which one it was, that one of them ended up escaping, genuinely historically. And there's a question as to whether or not what these people saw was an alligator or a crocodile, whichever one it was, and that they mistook it for a dragon because they'd never seen one before. I do think there is basis in a lot of the myths and folklore that we hear and that we read. Like Tim told a story, I think Tim's episode on ball lightning, or that pertained to ball lightning, came out yesterday, and you know, the story has been told that it was the devil that burst through the ceiling of this church and burned and maimed a load of people, blah 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 blah. But actually now it's believed that that event really did take place, but it wasn't the devil, it was ball lightning, and people didn't bloody know what it was. So I do love it when you read a piece of folklore or a myth or a cryptid and you go, oh, this is probably what people were seeing or hearing and why this story exists. So somebody sent in a suggestion, which I just thought was a really good idea, so I wanted to celebrate it. They said, suggestion for stories, perhaps some new stories themed around the early episodes, like Banshee stories. You know what? I have never thought to go back and revisit those early episodes. And I think that's such a good idea. I'm definitely going to put that down on my episodes list to revisit some of those episodes and find new stories about older topics that I've done before. Thank you. That is a great email. I also got a comment from someone who said, did you receive my email about Borg Vatnet's Vicarage? I did. It is in my labeled folder of episode ideas, and thank you. And if you do have an episode idea, if there's something that you think I should cover, please do send it in an email and I can add it to my list of episode ideas. That is really helpful and really welcomed all the time if you've got a topic that you think would be interesting for a main episode. Would you consider doing a podcast live show in my area for us to listen to you live and a meet and greet? This has been something that I've had great difficulty with.
Attention parents and grandparents. Are you searching for the perfect gift for your kids this holiday season? Give the gift of adventure that will last all year long. A Guardian bike. The easiest, safest, and quickest bikes for kids to learn on. Kids are learning to ride in just one day. No training wheels needed. What sets Guardian bikes apart? Designed especially for stability, they're low to the ground with a wide wheelbase and ultra-lightweight frames, offering superior control and balance. This design gives young riders the ability to learn in just one day without tears or frustration. Guardian bikes are the only kids' bikes designed and assembled in a USA factory, ensuring top-notch quality and durability. They were also featured on Shark Tank and are the New York Times Wirecutter Top Kids Bike Pick for 2024. Join the hundreds of thousands of happy families by getting a Guardian bike today. Their holiday season sales have begun, offering the biggest deal of the year. Save up to 25% on bikes. No code needed. Plus, get free shipping and a free bike lock and pump with your first purchase after signing up for their newsletter. Visit GuardianBikes.com to take advantage of these deals and secure your holiday season gifts today. Happy riding!
Hey, true crime fans. Tired of ads interrupting your gripping investigations? Good news. With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. After all, ads shouldn't be the scariest thing about true crime. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free true crime. That's amazon.com/ad-free true crime to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Getting engaged can be stressful. Getting the right ring won't be at BlueNile.com. The jewelers at BlueNile.com have sparkle down to a science with beautiful lab-grown diamonds worthy of your most brilliant moments. Their lab-grown diamonds are independently graded and guaranteed identical to natural diamonds and ready to ship to your door. Get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code LISTEN at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com, code LISTEN for $50 off.
Hey there. Looking to level up your shopping experience? Let me introduce you to Amazon Live. If you haven't heard, it's a shoppable video experience where influencers and creators showcase the latest must-haves all while you shop in real time. And for those who love some celeb gossip, reality stars like Kyle Richards, Lala Kent, and friend of the pod, Paige DeSorbo. On her new show, In Bed with Paige DeSorbo, Paige invites top-tier guests to cozy up in her fluffy bed where they spill secrets, share nighttime routines, and even whip up midnight snacks. Stream and shop new episodes of her series In Bed with Paige DeSorbo every Tuesday at 7 p.m. ET by going to amazon.com/live/Paige_DeSorbo. Or you can watch Amazon Live's new live TV channel on Freevee or Prime Video under the DIY section and shop along on your phone.
I have been approached a number of times at this stage to do a live show and I have always turned it down. There's a couple of reasons why. I always felt like I don't know what I would do on my own on stage. However, I am not as anti it as I was. You know, previously I felt very anti it, not because I was worried about listeners or anything like that, but just because I thought, I just don't know if I could do a show that would warrant people spending money to come out and watch, right? I have a real problem with the price of tickets for a lot of these shows. I'm not going to get into it, but a lot of these shows, the rental prices for the venue are so astronomically high that you end up having to charge a lot of money for tickets. And I don't agree with charging a huge amount of money for tickets. It's why I also don't promote merch anymore, because I feel like the merch is so bloody expensive. It's so prohibitively expensive for a lot of people that it feels weird to promote it. And I have also had a lot of difficulty with sort of being myself on stage. I, as you guys know, I act a lot and I have no problem playing a character on stage, but being on stage and being myself, I think I would find that quite difficult. However, in saying all of that, I have had long conversations with Sinead from the Poisoner's Cabinet about maybe potentially doing something together. So that might be something that might happen in the future. We have no concrete plans. I'm just being honest. It's a very flimsy plan at the moment. And obviously I will be sure to let you guys know if there are any concrete plans in place. But my God, if it gets to a point where we're having some sort of live show, y'all better come out and drag your family and friends with you. I will make it as affordable as I possibly can. but I want to see people there, okay? Has all the research that you've done for Real Life Ghost Stories changed your opinions or beliefs on the paranormal? I don't know if they've changed them as such, but my opinions and beliefs like fluctuate all the time. Like sometimes I'm like very skeptical, and then other times I go through phases where I'm like, that's it, I'm a believer, I believe it all. Mothman is real, Jeff the Mongoose is real, it's all real, ghosts are real, time slips are happening all around us. I think it just depends on what mood I'm in and what story I'm researching. Is there a particular story which has had a big effect on you? Yeah. I really regret doing the Annalise Michel case. Like, really regret doing it. And I fundamentally don't do possession cases anymore because I think that it's sometimes problematic to say that they're paranormal. I know that there will be people listening who believe in possession, and I'm not saying that possession isn't real. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, etc., etc. But I am saying that there are a lot of possession cases that nowadays we could say, oh, that person might have had mental health issues, that person might have had encephalitis or encephalitis. Like, there's a lot of modern medicinal reasons that can account for possession cases, and I really regret doing the Annalise Michel case, and I kind of wish I hadn't done it, and I still consider removing the episode to this day. So that, that's a big effect. Probably not in the way you were thinking it would be, but that has had a big effect on me. When are you getting another cat? Another question that comes up all the time when I do anonymous boxes on Instagram, when I put up stuff like this. People always want to know when I'm getting another cat. I was really anti getting another cat for a very long time. I said, no, I'm never having a cat again. I cannot go through the pain of losing a cat again. Now, granted, when Bimmy died, it was absolutely the right thing to do. She was never a very well cat, and I have no regrets about the life that we gave her, and I have no regrets about her death. Like, she was the most spoiled and well looked after cat you've ever bloody met, and cost me a fortune. But also, when it was her time, it was her time. She got very sick very quickly, and I spent some time afterwards wrestling with, like, should I have made the decision to put her to sleep? Should I have just prayed for a miracle and taken her home and hoped that she would rally, and all of those things? But she got very ill very quickly, and it was the right thing to do. I have gone to the cattery tentatively, to the RSPCA, which is the Royal Society for the Protection of Cruelty to Animals. Well, I don't even know what it stands for really, but it's I did go looking at more rescue cats. Ultimately, right now, I've decided that I'm travelling too much at the moment. I've got too many things booked in. It wouldn't be fair to take in a rescue cat at the moment. But there was a tiny, tiny cat that was advertised on the RSPCA website, and it was like literally the advertisement was like, this cat has come to us. We didn't think she'd make it, but she did. She's had all these illnesses. She's about an inch big. She's tiny. She's about an inch big. And basically they said she's not going to live for very long. And they said she's really quirky, which generally means she's difficult. And I was very close to going to get her. You know, I was very close to getting into my car and being like, she's mine now, bring her to me. But it wouldn't be fair to bring in a cat into the house and then leave and go and do different holidays and stuff. So maybe after Christmas I might consider it, because I'll have a longer period of time at home consistently. Maybe I'll consider it. But actually I'm at a point of never say never now. Are you dating anyone? Sometimes this question comes up. I think people are very curious about whether or not I have dipped my toe into the world of dating or am dating anybody. But the answer is no. I am not dating anyone, and I'm not actively looking to date anyone. So I don't have any, dating apps or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not looking to date anybody. Sometimes I think if I did start dating somebody, although I don't know how that would happen, because I just see my same friends all the time, you know, and I it's not like I'm going out clubbing or anything like that. But if I did start dating somebody, I often wonder about how, if I would allow that online. Do you know what I mean? If I would kind of be like, haha, you know, here's this person that I'm dating. But I don't think that I would. I think I would probably keep it quite private. But I have no problem answering a direct question about it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to lie. So no, I am not dating anybody. What is your favourite and least favourite part of podcasting? So this is a question that I always ask other podcasters, because I'm really curious about what people say. My favourite part is that it's flexible. It's so flexible. I can record from anywhere. I can go home for long periods of time, like to Ireland. I keep a microphone there so that I can record when I'm at home. You know, I can go on holidays and bring a microphone with me. Like, it's honestly, it is such a blessing. Also, I think, like, financially, it has changed my life, and I know that it's uncouth to talk about money and stuff, and people are always like, you shouldn't talk about money, but I earn more money now as a podcaster than I did as a teacher, and I cannot express how grateful I am for that. Like, it has genuinely changed my life. Like, without any dramatics, it has genuinely changed my life, and I'm really, really proud of that, and really glad, and I feel really blessed and privileged to be able to say that. However, it is a very isolating job, and you know, I spoke to Kit and Rory from This Paranormal Life about this, and fundamentally, like, I work alone and I record episodes generally alone, and I spend a lot of time by myself, and that's just the way that it has to be. Like, I quite like being on my own, but then I don't need encouragement to be on my own, and sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, you need to get out and see people and blah blah blah. And obviously when Dan was alive, we did this together and we bounced off each other, and you know, he could interject with more of the chatting on a day if I wasn't feeling it. And it is much harder to do it on your own, because I feel like when I'm doing listener stories, I just feel like I'm repeating myself all the time, you know, because there's often, you know, listener stories, they follow a theme. You've got lots of listener stories that will come in about visitation dreams, for example, right? And I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. And I find it hard to kind of keep it engaging and try and say different things and be funny when it allows for it, and try and be caring when I need to be. And it's kind of a bit of it's harder to do when you're on your own. Silly question, feel free to ignore it. I heard in an episode that you said that you have to draw on your eyebrows. Personally, I love that you take no offence and share things like that with a good laugh. Is there a health condition or a hereditary reason that you don't have any? This question made me laugh so much, and honestly, like, genuinely, I have no need to ignore this, because I talk about my no eyebrows all the time. So I have no eyebrows. I have to draw on my eyebrows, right? I draw on my eyebrows every day. I did get my eyebrows tattooed on, but because I have really oily skin, the tattoo the tattoo didn't last. They don't last forever anyway, eyebrow tattoos, but mine particularly didn't last, so I haven't gotten it redone. Basically, for years, I thought that my no eyebrows and no eyelashes was the result of some sort of deficiency in my body, or some or something that, you know, some vitamin I was missing or some hereditary thing. I was like, why do I have no eyebrows? Because not only do I have blonde eyebrows, I also have very little eyebrow hair, and that's the same goes for eyelashes. I also have a disease called PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which causes me to lose hair on my head. And I remember when I got diagnosed, I was like, is that why I have no hair on my eyebrows and my eyelashes? And they were like, no, not known to cause that. So I would be there like, I've tried all the multivitamins, I've done the growth serums, I've done everything. And I was like, this is a mystery. I don't understand where my eyebrows keep disappearing to. And my eyebrows would grow back and then disappear again. And, you know, same with my eyelashes. I'd have these big gaps in my eyelashes. Anyway, it turns out it's me. I pull out my eyelashes and my eyebrows and I just never noticed I was doing it, basically. Which is called trichotillomania, and it's like, basically it's a comfort thing, or if I get stressed I do it. And I realised because I was sitting in therapy one day and my therapist said, you know that you've been sitting there pulling out your eyelashes and your eyebrows the entire time that you've been talking to me. And I was like, have I? I'd never noticed it. And, you know, I said it to the people around me, and lo and behold, would you believe, when I get upset or just if I'm concentrating, if I'm like watching a film or whatever, I will sit and pull out my eyelashes and my eyebrows. So it's been me all along. I'm the villain. Now that I'm aware of it, I'm a little bit better, but it is a bit of a compulsion. Like, I need to pull out a certain amount of eyebrows and eyelashes to feel kind of, you know, calmer or whatever, which isn't great. But it does mean that I don't have some sort of illness other than trichotillomania. I love that question, by the way, because my no eyebrows, it comes up a lot, especially if I make TikToks and stuff without any eyebrows on. I often make TikToks when I'm in bed and I have no eyebrows on, and it's always men in the comments that are like, where are your eyebrows? Like, what has happened to them? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, but it's me. Anyway, that's the long and short of it. Okay, here it goes. This is what I don't understand after listening to over 300 episodes. I don't understand how non-organic beings can be seen as visual apparitions. So yes, animals and humans I understand, but the clothes they wear, glasses, carriages and horse and cart, ghosts, ghost planes and cars, etc., not living things, how can they be ghostly apparitions? Okay, I don't think they're apparitions. I think they are like moments in time. I think they're time slips. I think when you have like carriages, when you have ghost planes, when you have ghost trains, you know, whatever else it is, I think they're time slips. I think they're moments in time. Like, that's genuinely what I think. I think if we're going to talk about them as being paranormal and we're going to say, yes, they're definitely paranormal, but what does that mean? I think it's something to do with time and time not being linear. And that is my answer. I don't think they're ghostly. I don't think it's like a woo kind of situation. I think it's a weird time slip type thing. Would you ever consider doing an episode about paranormal events from South Africa? I have a story about an event that happened to me as a teenager that followed me into my 20s and into many different apartments. Send it in. Send it in, anonymous listener. Of course. I will take paranormal events from all over the world. And I would happily do an episode on South Africa. Is there any particular South African story that you think that I would be interested in? Send them my way. I would love to hear it. I'm really super curious about your experience with my haunted hotel. I really enjoyed listening to the episodes that both you and Kevin made. Now that it's been a while, do you believe that it was real? Oh, we're having a lot of my haunted hotel chat in this episode. Do I believe that it was real? Yes, I do. I don't necessarily believe that it was all paranormal, but I believe the things that I heard and experienced were real things that happened in that moment. I don't necessarily believe that they were paranormal, right? Not, do you know, if somebody turned around to me and said, you know, these things happened, but everybody believed it was real, but this was the logical scientific explanation, fine, like I would believe that. So when Kevin and I were in the room and we heard the baby crying, I 100% believe that was real. I think it is possible that somebody has a new baby in one of the buildings around the pub at that time, and that's what we were hearing, but I 100% heard a baby crying, and I don't think it was rigged. I don't think it was like a speaker somewhere. You know, I just don't believe that it was. There was one point where I was sitting kind of cross-legged on a bed doing, I don't know, a seance. I don't remember what I was doing. Maybe I had a spirit box or something, I don't remember. And I felt knocks on the wooden panels underneath me. Like I felt it physically. I think that was real. I don't know what it means, but I think it was real. And like I said earlier in this episode, when we were doing that spirit box thing and the demon voice came through, like that was scary at the time. Maybe it was preloaded. Maybe, you know, I don't know how spirit boxes work, you know, so maybe it was just jumbly static that sounded like a demonic voice. Maybe it, you know, was a radio frequency that briefly picked up. I don't know. But in that moment, it really happened and everybody's reactions were real. I personally think that the My Haunted Hotel guys, like, they seem to know how to create entertaining content, right? But I do think they believe it, genuinely. I think Harry, who's the owner of the pub, is a bit like, listen, yeah, whatever. I don't think he's particularly bothered or freaked by any of it, or, you know. But I do think that they believe that what they are capturing is real, and I don't think they're out to trick anybody, you know. Now, bear in mind the way the place is set up, like the visuals, etc. Like, it's scary as shit. So I think automatically you're going to feel more on edge, more spooked, etc., etc. I believe that it was real. Do I necessarily believe that it was paranormal? No. But did it really happen? Yeah, I think it did. Do you have a favourite kind of salad or salad dressing? Really random question. And I love it. I love a random question. Favourite kind of salad? I don't really know. Do you know what I love? An egg salad sandwich. I haven't had one in a really long time. I do love like a classic Caesar salad, a classic chicken Caesar salad with loads of dressing, loads of Parmesan. Like, I want Parmesan coming out my ears, you know. So I do love a good salad with loads of salad dressing, whatever that might be. So maybe a chicken Caesar salad is probably my favourite. When you get a good one, they're absolutely delicious. That is it. That is our questions. If I've missed your question, it is probably because I'm not very good at scrolling and reading at the same time. But maybe I might have answered it before kind of too many times. So if I've missed your question, it's nothing personal, don't worry. And thank you so much for everybody for submitting questions. It's nice to kind of take a break from serious recording and just answer some questions. And I haven't done this since probably quarantine question time, all those years ago. It's been a while. So thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for asking me all those questions. Thank you for being here on 31 Days of Terror. It is a marathon on this side, you know, being the person that's recording them. And there's a point where I get really like, my brain gets really foggy from recording so much. But I do absolutely love seeing you guys online being like, woo, loving 31 Days of Terror, really enjoying it. You know, it's helping me get through my commute, or it's really helping me with the build up to spooky season. I love it. Love seeing your guys' reactions. So thank you all for tuning in. And I guess I will see you all tomorrow.
The new Boost Mobile network is offering unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for life.
That sounds like a threat.
Then how do you think we should say it?
Unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for the rest of your life?
I don't know.
Until your ultimate demise.
What if we just say forever?
Okay.
$25 a month, forever.
Get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile forever.
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.